Everybody, my name is Jetlags and Journeys. We do appreciate you guys being here today. Thank you for being here, guys. We are talking about the B-25 bomber, B-25 Mitchell, which is this plane right here. This plane is B-25, which is Panchito. Um, so before we get started, the B-25 was a regional aircraft that was flown in World War II. And hold on, guys. We welcome you guys back to today's presentation here. We are talking about the Panchito B-25 bomber. The B-25 was flown for Doolittle air raids. You know, the air raids of the B-25 have became a long ways with the B-25. The B-25 is a regional airplane. It's a great airplane for, um, it was a very stabilized airplane. There is nothing better than the B-25. This B-25 right behind me here, guys, is called Panchito. He was a great warbird for the World War II, guys, and I can tell you right now, he is very reasonable, a flying airplane. Um, you can see the red stripes on the tail of the B-25, the red stripe on the tail going across on the B-25, which gives the B-25 a nice look of the Panchito. Um, I would like to say happy veterans. Thank you to our men and women of our armed forces. Thank you to the veterans out there. Um, thank you for protecting the country, doing all that other stuff. And it has been a very my pleasure to talk to you guys today. So before we get going, guys, before we start talking, before we do that, we will be answering your questions after this presentation. Then we have another presentation coming up right after ours, which is the Huey helicopter. We'll learn a little bit about the Huey um, and the aircraft for the Huey helicopter. So let's get started, guys. Today, the B-25 still flies in air shows today, especially this Panchito guy right here. Panchito uh, has been flying in air shows for a long time. Um, the warbirds are they're amazing aircraft. There is nothing but the sound of B-25s or stuff like that. So it's a great aircraft. It's a great bomber. It's a great plane for flying. And I got to tell you guys right now that the B-25 was flew for the Doolittle air raids. If you don't know much about them, um, they have bombed the Central Pacific um, or the Japanese back in the day of World War II. Let's get started here, guys. Most B-25s in American services were used in the war against Japan in Asia and the Pacific. The Mitchell fought from the northern Pacific to the South Pacific and the Far East. These areas included included the campaigns in Aleutian Island, Papua New Guinea, the Solomon Island, New Britain, China, Burma, and the island hoping campaign in the Central Pacific as well as the Doolittle air raids. The aircraft potential as the ground attack aircraft emerged during the Pacific War. The jungle environment reduced the usefulness of medium-level bombing and made low-level attack the Pacific best tactic using similar mass tight level tactics in skip bombing. The B-25 proved itself a capable anti-shipping weapon and sank many enemy sea vessels. So a lot of it became sinking the vessels with the B-25. So the B-25s actually sank a lot of vessels. one thing that pilots didn't like about the B-25, it was a great flying airplane. So if you lost an engine, you had to make sure you didn't know you lose an engine of the airplane. Um, you can just actually possibly glide it in perfectly. So what better way can you see with that? Then you also got then the thing that the pilots did not like about the B-25, which is this plane right here, Panchito, behind me, was it was super loud. You didn't hear in protection. There there was earplugs involved, but if most of the pilots didn't have earplugs, a lot of them went with hearing loss. So hearing loss was a problem for the B-25. Um, with the B-25 Mitchell. Um, in Buruma, the B-25 was used to attack the Japanese communication links, especially. Hello, welcome in. This is a happy Sun and Fun 2025, guys. If you're just tuning in, welcome in. Thanks for being here. In Buruma, the B-25 was used to attack Japanese communication links, especially bridges in central Buruma. So they have attacked the bridges in Japanese communication, which they flew over and just let it all down, and go figure, just did that. It also helped supply the beside beside troops at Impala in 1944, which helped them um, help the troops out with that. The China Air Task Force, the Chinese American Com Composite Wing, the 1st Air Commando Group, the 341st Bomb Squad or Bombs Group that, and eventually then relocated the 12th Bomb Group, all operated the B-25 bomber. So the B-25 bomber was a special airplane. A lot of history that goes through the B-25, which is behind me. It is a great plane. You do see it in air shows today, guys. You do see the B-25 in air shows today. Many of these missions involve battlefield isolations, instructions, and close air support. A lot of these planes um, grouped up, and if you ever heard about the Doolittle Air Raiders, you know some of the history about the B-25 bomber. The first B-25 arrived in Egypt, which is and were carrying out independent operations by October 1942. So they actually had um, so the first B-25 bomber was arrived in Egypt in 1942 that carried out the independent operations of the B-25. Uh, Operations there against Axis airfield and motorized vehicle columns supported the ground actions of the Second Battle of El Alamein. Thereafter, the aircraft took part of the resting campaign in North America, the invasion of Sicily, and the advance up Italy in the Strait of Messina to the Aegean Sea. The uh, B-25 conducted sea sweeps as part of the coastal air forces in Italy. Um, so the B-25 was used in the ground attack role, which they had tons of B-25s in the era um, for the attack. And considering on attacks against road and rail links in Italy, Austria, and Balkans, the B-25 had a longer range than the Douglas A-20 Havoc, uh, Havoc, and Douglas A-26 Invader. The Invader was kind of like the B-25. Um, There's the Invader right here on my hat. Right there, the Invader. It did have two propellers. The Invader had two propellers, just like the B-25. It only had one tail, um, allowing it to reach further into occupied Europe. The five bombardment groups, 20 squadrons of the 9th and 20th Air Force that used the B-25 in Europe. So they use these B-25s in Europe a lot of times. And like I said, the A-26 is like the B-25. It has two props. The only difference between the A-26 Invader and the B-25, um, B-25 has two tails. Invader has one tail. Two tails, one tail. So that's how we get started with that. The RAV received nearly 900 Mitchells, using them to replace Douglas Bostons, Lockheed Venturis, and Vickers Wellington bombers. The Mitchell entered active RAF services on the 22nd January 1943. At first, it was used to bomb targets in occupied Europe. After the Normandy invasion, the RAF and France used Mitchells in support of the Allies in Europe. Several squadrons moved to forward air base on the continent. The USAAF used the B-25 in combat theater of operations. So the B-25 was a great aircraft for World War II. The B-25 found fame as the bomber used on the April 18, 1942 Doolittle air raid. So in a couple weeks, there will be an anniversary of the Doolittle air raids that took place, in which 15 B-25s led the Lieutenant Colonel Jimmy Doolittle attacked mainland Japan 4 months after the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. So we sent those B-25s up and went right back at the Japanese uh, for the Doolittle air raids, which took place with the bombers. Um, attack on the mainland. A 16th plane which participated was forced into abort landing in Russia because the airplane had some mechanical problems, and the crew didn't realize that till then. So, what's wrong, buddy? Um, so it had problems. The mission gave a match needed lift in more. Thank you. Who believed their home islands to be involved by enemy forces, although the amount of actual damage done was relatively minor. It forced the Japanese to divert troops for home defense to the remainder of the war. The Doolittle air raids, took these B-25 bombers, took these B-25s, and just went right over Japan and just let them have it back in World War II. The raiders took off from the carrier, which was called the USS Hornet, which was and bombed Tokyo and 4 other Japanese cities. 15 of the bombers subsequently crash landed and en route to recover fields in eastern China. So a lot of those planes. So the planes did take off from the USS Hornet. I'm not sure if the USS Hornet is still activated, or I doubt it. But you can, if you look up the USS Hornet, you'll find out how the Raiders took off from the carrier, or and you'll see the plane the Doolittle air raids take off from the USS Hornet in World War II. Um, the losses resulted from the task force being spotted by Japanese vessels, which the vessels found the B-25s, and they started shooting their missiles right up out of the aircraft and trying to shoot them out of the air, which forced the bombers to take off 170 miles per hour, which is 170 knots. Uh, Early fuel exhaust and stormy nighttime conditions with the zero visibility. So just imagine zero visibility, very hard to see, very, very hard to see. Um, Not only that they had a hard time seeing, but they couldn't find the enemy aircraft, what they were going for. So they just totally had a hard time looking for what they were looking for. Um, Only one B-25 bomber landed intact in Vladivostok, where its 5-man crew was interned and the aircraft infested or of the 80 air crew members. 69 survived their historic mission and eventually made it back to American lines. So that's how that works here. Let's see here. We do have questions coming in early here. Hey Ghost, if you don't mind me asking why am I dressed like this? This is my flight gear. This is my flight suit. I'm a virtual pilot of the B-25. I'm a virtual pilot, so I'm a virtual pilot of the B-25 Mitchell, which I'm talking about here. And when I'm talking about the B-25, I had to wear this gear, and so that's why I have this gear on today. Following additional modifications, including the addition of the plexus dome of navigational sightings to replace the overhead window of the navigator and the heavier nose arrangement, de-icing and anti-icing equipment, the B-25 bomber. Although the B-25 was designed to bomb from medium altitudes in level flight, it was frequently used in the Southwest Pacific Theater in treetop level strafing. So just imagine how high the trees are. Okay, just imagine treetop level. Okay, you're looking at the treetop level. When the B-25s came over the top, they started doing strafe run, boom, 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 boom. So that's what a strafe run is. It goes boom, something like that. So that's a strafe run, guys, if you were wondering. And missions with parachute created fragmentation bombs against Japanese airfields in New Guinea and the Philippines. These heavily armed Mitchells were field modified at Townsville, Australia. So these planes were in Australia, and the return of the bomber following the two gunship series, NAA again produced the medium bomber configuration with the B-25J series. It was gotcha. Hey, Charlie, welcome in. It optimized the mix of the interim NA-100 and the H series, having both of the bombers station and fixed guns of the D and the forward turret. The final and the most numerous series of the Mitchell was the B-25J. This is I'm not sure what model this plane is behind me here. I know it's some kind of B-25. I just came in. Welcome in. So this bomber behind me is called the B-25. I'm not sure what model this one is, but it's called a Panchito. It does do air shows. This um, bomber was used for air shows all over the world. I started playing. Oh, nice. The U.S. Navy designation for the B-25 Mitchell was the PBJ-1, and apart from increased use of radar. Yeah, you're welcome. Um, so far, does anybody have any questions about the B-25 that is stacked up behind me here, the B-25 Mitchell? Does anybody have any questions on it? We do have another, we will have to end this one and get ready for the Huey presentation here after we're done here, guys. So, but does anybody have any questions about the B-25 so far? By the end of 1942, the RAF had taken delivery of 93 Mitchells, Marks, Marks 1 and 2. Some served with squadrons of Number 2 Group RAF, the RAF's Tactical Medium Bomber Force, including Number 139 Wing RAF at the RAF Dunsfold. The first RAF operation with the Mitchell 2, so there was a Mitchell 2, B-25 too. Um, the RF, let's see, so the second one took place on January 22nd, 1943, when 6 aircraft from number 180 Squadron RAF attacked an oil installation of Gent after the invasion by Europe, which Point 2 Group was part of the second tactical for the B-25. Um, all 4 Mitchell squadrons moved to base in France and Belgium to support Allied grounded forces. The British Mitchell squadrons were joined by number 342 Lorraine Squadron of the French Air Force in April 1945. Um, as part of the bomber command, number 305 Polish Squadron flew Mitchell twos from September to December 1943 before converting to the de Havilland Mosquito. So then they went from the B-25 over to the de Havilland Mosquito, which might be here next year. We are not doing the B-20. We're not doing any Mosquito talk this year, guys. So we do apologize for that. In addition to the group number two, the B-25 consisted of NOS 681 and 684 squadrons, flew the Mitchell, primarily Mk2 on photographic of different shorties or something. But the Royal Canadian Air Force used the B-25 for training during the war. So the Royal Canadian Air Force used the B-25s as they took the B-25s up, and they were training with those during the war, so they knew how to operate those B-25 Mitchells. Post-war, used to continue operations with most of the 162 Mitchells revived. So 162 B-25s were revived. The first B-25 has been diverted to Canada from RAF orders. These include 1 Mitchell 1, 42 Mitchell 2, and 19 Mitchell 3s. Number 13 P Squadron was formed unofficially at RCAF Rockcliffe in May 1944 and used Mitchell 2s on high altitude aerial photograph. Sorties is number 5 Operational Training Unit and Boundary Bay, British Columbia, and Ford, British Columbia operated the B-25D. So they have there's been multiple B-25s in different areas of the country that they used, and the training rolled together with the B-24 Liberator for heavy convention as part of the BCATP. The RCAF retained the Mitchell until October 1963. Number 418 Auxiliary Squadron received its first Mitchell in 1947. It was followed by number 406 Auxiliary, which flew Mitchell 2s and 3s from April 1947 to June 1958. Number 418 operated a mix of 2s and 3s until March of 1958. Number 12 Squadron of Air Transport commanded also flew Mitchell's 3s along the other types from September 1956 to November 1960. In 1951, the RCAF received an additional 75 B-25Js from the USF AF stocks to make up the attrition and the equip second line units. They have also used B-25s in Australian. The Australians received Mitchells by the spring of 1944. The joint Australian-Dutch number 18 Netherlands East Indies Squadron, RAF, had more than enough Mitchells for one squadron. So they had a little bit too much B-25s in Australia for the squadron. So The surplus went to equip the RAAF and number 2 squadron, replacing the Beauforts. Then all of a sudden, the Dutch came along and they started having their B-25s. During World War II, the Mitchells served in fairly large numbers with the Air Force Dutch government in exile. The participation in the East Indies as well on the European front. On the 30th of June, 1941, the Netherlands Purchasing Commission, acting on behalf of the Dutch government in exile in London, signed to a contract with the North American Aviation for 162 B-25 aircraft. Bombers were to be delivered to the Netherlands, East Indies, to help deter any Japanese aggression into the region. So you got so many B-25 facts. At this time, we do have to cut this presentation a little shorter, guys, because we will be having the Huey presentation. So if you guys have any questions right now, feel free to ask. I'm just going to hold on for a few minutes here. Does anybody have any questions about the B-25 from the audience? We do have the Huey presentation coming up shortly. That's why we have to cut this one a little shorter. But we thank you guys so much for watching the history about the B-25 bomber. We hope you enjoyed the presentation. My pleasure of sharing info with you guys about the B-25 and the Doolittle air raids. Thank you guys so much. And get ready for the Huey helicopter coming up next. Thank you guys.